Venus O'Hara, we are here live again.
Oh my God.
As always, I love having you on because you've added a lot of value to our readers here at Metropolitan. We're always trying to add value with events and interviews of really cool people who understand that life is to be enjoyed. Take it, by the horns, and then ride that lion, ride that toro, that bull. And you are sitting here on organizing events, doing stuff for a cool vegan lifestyle, and there you exude confidence and warmth and all these positivity. I'd like to make sure the people who don't know who you are hear from yourself. Can you introduce yourself, Venus, please?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's a great privilege to be here. I am a holistic self-love content creator, and I left my job in luxury real estate in 2009 to start a sex blog. And at the time, I had no idea where it was going to take me, but within just a couple of months or a few weeks of its creation, I had my first book deal. And then I started to write for Spanish media outlets in Spanish about sex. I've published 3 books, and then I started to review sex toys in 2014. And then now it's been 10 years, but now I'm kind of going into a world of more holistic self-love, and I have a podcast called The Orgasmic Lifestyle. Every day is a climax. So it's all about reaching climax in all areas of life, not just sexuality, but also spirituality, nutrition, health, etc. Because I wanted to become a bit more eclectic and have more variety in my work.
Every day is a lifestyle. Every day is a climax. I love this. So can you talk to us a little bit about your inspiration? How did you get into this sober, plant-based social group that you're now moving to?
Well, it all came about from my loneliness in the pandemic. I think a lot of people can resonate with that. I spent so much time alone, and I was looking for my tribe because I already was vegan and sober. And I just realized that that's very difficult to be social. You're always the one, who's not eating jamon, or even explaining why you're not drinking. So I decided to solve my own problem by creating this group. And at first, I'm not a natural leader, so it wasn't an easy process for me. But before that, I was already in a vegan group, and I was one of the event organizers. And then over time, I thought, I want my own group. And I created a group called Conscious Connections, Barcelona Conscious Connections, for anyone who is interested in a deeper connection. For example, I organize dinners that have icebreaker questions on the tables. So it's not just about where you're from, how long have you been in Barcelona, what do you do? It's a bit deeper than that. So I was trying to solve many problems about loneliness, networking, and conscious lifestyle, and plant-based lifestyle, and sober lifestyle.
Okay. And tell me more about Conscious Connections. What can people expect at a Conscious Connections event?
Sorry, I should have turned my phone off. What was that?
Sorry, tell me a little bit more about Conscious Connections. What can people expect at such an event?
Well, they have to be manually approved before they join the group. I always ask people why they want to join. So that's very important for me, so I can weed out any problems. And in an event, I have several event organizers, but in my particular events, they are dinners in some of the best vegan restaurants of the city. And I have these papers on the table with questions. So I just basically have these interesting questions on the table so people can have these conversations. One of my favorite questions is, when was the last time you did something for the first time? So these are kind of questions that spark some deep conversations. And these are conversations that you can have with people you know, and you might discover something new. So it's not just for people who are meeting for the first time, but it can be for anyone. So these are kind of like a support in the events. But the people who come who are attracted to this type of event are people who are generally living quite healthy lifestyles. They could be quite into personal development, spirituality. And the fact that it's a sober group is another point that attracts them more than the plant-based thing, actually, because most people who come are not vegan.
Okay. And so what led you to want to combine sobriety and plant-based lifestyle within this Conscious Connections community?
Well, at first, I just held these events in vegan restaurants purely because I had lots of contacts in the vegan restaurants of Barcelona. For the very first event, I was a bit worried. I was thinking, I hope people don't mind that it's vegan, but everyone loved it. And I think this is a much more powerful way of sharing vegan food with non-vegans. It's a great way of spreading a message about plant-based eating, because I think there are many ways to kind of promote plant-based meat eating, but I think doing it through delicious food is a wonderful way. Then I realized that a lot of the people, I looked at the table and a lot of people were drinking water, because I think it goes hand in hand. You know, if you're eating a plant-based diet, often it doesn't quite go well with maybe wine or other alcoholic beverages, and the kind of people who are coming to the events. But I had a couple of incidences where people came who were just looking for a Saturday night fun night, and they got quite drunk, and that put me in a very difficult situation. So I just decided to put this filter in, and then it was interesting because just within, a few days of actually creating this new rule, lots of people were coming to the group for that reason, that they were looking for a sober social life, and also a reason to go out on Saturday and not be, among people who are going to say, "Why aren't you drinking?" or even to be among in the realm of temptation. So it was actually a really positive decision.
Well, increasingly I have more and more vegan friends, and I find myself at parties or events at which sometimes by serendipity, it turns out to be kind of a very vegan, or, well, I can say very vegetarian, if not a vegan party. My wife and I are really big into vegetables. We've got no problem with that. And the food is fantastic. And I hear that Barcelona is an up and coming city in the vegan world. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Apparently, it's the third best city in the world for veganism. I think number one is London, but London and Berlin are kind of up there in Europe. But Barcelona is an incredible place, and I would recommend anyone who is curious about the vegan scene in Barcelona to use an app called Happy Cow. It's an incredible app, and it's wonderful if you're traveling as well. And it shows all of the vegan restaurants, vegetarian restaurants, and restaurants with vegan options. And you can see all the reviews, pictures of the food, and then you can see how far away it is from you. So I use Happy Cow a lot. And what's really interesting is when I was organizing vegan events for Barcelona vegan community before I created Conscious Connections, we did a thing in 2019 where we didn't repeat any restaurants, and it was incredible how that was a possibility. There was one restaurant that we did repeat, and that was Roots and Rolls. Shout out to Roots and Rolls, because they are incredible restaurants, my favorite.
They're awesome.
Yeah, but anyway, it was incredible to see all these new places popping up, and still today there are new places that I have not been to that are vegan, and I just love that peace of mind going into a place that I know the food that I'm eating has been prepared in a kitchen where there are no animals. I think it's not just an ethical thing, but it's also for hygiene and just the energy.
So what kind of activities does a group typically organize to foster these connections?
Well, the connections are all about conversations, I think. The conversations are the real connecting factor. And I try to encourage people to move around the table, let's say for dessert time, and then we go for a drink after, so people get to speak to more than one person. But I've got to be honest, I'm not the best leader. I've only just started greeting everyone who comes. Sometimes I just used to create the reservation and just kind of hide in the corner, but I'm gradually becoming a little bit more hands-on with my leadership skills as an event organizer. So it's basically those questions and those conversations, and making sure everyone who feels comfortable and they know how the menu works and and stuff like that.
Okay, and you kind of touched on this before, but the vegan scene in Barcelona. I've been living here for a long time, and I'm increasingly surprised by the number of alternatives and options I have. You just mentioned that you had so many that you didn't have to repeat. But can you talk a little bit more? How has it evolved? You said that you weren't always a vegan. So how did you transition in there and be so knowledgeable about the vegan lifestyle?
Well, I was vegetarian for most of my life, and I had this crazy dream about what would it be like to have a vegan dining group. I just thought it was a crazy idea at first, and it's actually manifested itself, which is wonderful. So for me, it was just that desire of wanting to eat in places where I can pick up the menu and have choice, because that's not something I was ever used to. When I was a vegetarian, and Italian restaurants were kind of saved me, because Italian restaurants are very vegetarian friendly if you're ovo-lacto vegetarian. But the vegan thing for me, it's been 6 years now, and I already joined this vegan group before I was actually vegan. And I realized that in my mindset was the same as the vegan mindset. I just had a couple of habits, which was red velvet cake from Brunch and Cake. That was so hard to give up. And some cheese, like cheesy pizzas with mozzarella. So those things were kind of like delaying my full transition. But I was kind of on board with the mindset. And so I just realized that I started going to vegan events with another vegan group. I just realized that I really enjoyed the mindset of the people. I enjoyed talking about food, appreciating food. I think a lot of people think that veganism is about denying yourself pleasure. I think people think that, and I don't think that. I think it's the opposite. For me, it's about total abundance. There's so many beautiful things to enjoy and taste, and things like cheese, which I found, initially was very difficult to give up, or even cakes and sweet things. There are incredible alternatives, and I would love to give another shout out to a place called Hanai Vegana, which is an incredible gluten-free vegan cake shop, pastateria in the Bourne, and it's just incredible. You see, there's these long queues for people waiting to get their cakes, and it's just amazing that you can have these indulgences and not feel like you're missing out on anything. And so I love the variety of the vegan scene in Barcelona. You can have vegan sushi, you can have vegan burgers, you can have vegan junk food. So I think there's something for all tastes.
Okay, and
pizza.
Taking a cue from you on all of that, I wanted to ask you, and would I be welcomed at one of your vegan events? Because I'm not a vegan person. I truly love it. I can go without meat for weeks, but I do like meat, and I like non-vegan things. But could we fit into your plan?
Absolutely. And I think this is the real test of a really good vegan restaurant, is how many non-vegans are there and how many find it flavorful. That's the biggest test, in my opinion. If I had a vegan restaurant, I would want non-vegans to be coming, because those are the people who are really gonna support and speak highly of you. It's not good to preach to the choir, as they say. It's about spreading a message to someone who hasn't tried it before. And most people in my group are not vegan, and the people I've had to ban from the group have been vegan, surprisingly. So it's not an animal activist vibe or anything like that. It's just simply that I had the contacts in vegan restaurants. I like that, and that's why we're having events in vegan restaurants. But it's not a kind of place for vegan activism. It's really not welcome in my group at all.
Really interesting. Okay, I think I did have not that doubt, but something in my mind was whether or not there was going to be such a strong pro-vegan vibe to it. But apparently not.
No, actually, most people are not vegan, so no, you're not going to get that. But everyone's a foodie.
Okay. And so what do you hope to achieve with this social group on promoting a healthier lifestyle and mindset?
Well, that's one thing, because I think even people who are, let's say, not sober or not vegan can have this experience where they are not indulging in alcohol or animal products for one meal. So that's an incredible achievement. But what really makes my heart warm is when I see before my eyes people exchanging numbers and creating real conscious connections, real friendships. I have created amazing friendships in my group. We have nearly 2,000 members, 250 events at least. And I have seen friendships blossom, and that's been, for me, it's actually 2 years old this week now. So that's been, for me, the greatest reward. So I'm just excited about this karma, it's going to be so good for me. It's going to come back.
Well, I have to admit, I just spent the last week in London, and I got news that my blood sugar's high, my cholesterol's high, and for the first time in my life, I have hypertension. And so I promised my wife that I was going to be careful when I was in London. I didn't taste anything with aspartame because I've been on Diet Coke for the last 30 years. And I have to say, I feel so much cleaner. Clean's the right word. I don't know, for lack of a better word, from being careful about what I eat. And yet I didn't feel like I missed out on anything. There's such great curries. There's really great offerings when I was in London. And so I'm pretty excited about being more vegetarian friendly. and curious about becoming a vegan, although I do love cows. Anyhow, can you tell us a little bit more about your podcast on the
Yeah.
orgasmic lifestyle?
Yeah, so the orgasmic lifestyle, every day is a climax. So this is, I started it in 2021, I think. So it's going to be 3 years old in August. And
Wow.
a lot of people were telling me that they liked my voice. And some people were watching my sex toy reviews on YouTube just to fall asleep because they found my voice relaxing. And I thought that was interesting. And I have some good friends who are very successful podcasters. And they kept telling me to do a podcast. And I thought, I cannot be bothered to learn a new skill set. I'm just not interested. But then I came across a podcast agency who that was recommended to me, and they took care of everything. So I started to work with an agency who were very professional in the sense that we were, just preparing the podcast for 3 months. They did everything for me, such as the promotion, the logo, guest outreach, all the editing, repurposing, promotion. So that for me was an incredible way, because it was interesting because I used to get these emails from Calendly saying so-and-so's booked an interview, and I'm like, who are they? So I used to Google them, and then this person is huge. They're like New York Times best-selling authors, or they've got like 200,000 followers or something like that. So they were people who are very well known in their fields. And I was curious about branching out from the space of sexuality, because I'm so much more than sex toy reviews. I wanted to share more of myself with the world, because I'm very passionate about healthy living. And the idea came about because I had an interview with Marie Claire Brazil a few years ago, and we were going to talk about female orgasm and sex toys. And the person who's going to interview me, she was in a traffic jam, and she was very stressed. She goes, I'm going to be late. And I was like, okay, chill. I was like really chilled. When we got on the call, I told her in a matter-of-fact way that I have had no alarm in the morning for 15 years, since 2009. And that was the detail that really impacted her the most, because she's just come from a traffic jam and being late. So I realized that having a no alarm life was something that I wanted to promote. At first, the orgasmic lifestyle was called No Alarm Life. But then I realized that it was about orgasmic lifestyle is about reaching the climax in all areas of life. So not just about the sexual climax, but also a climax in eating the best foods, reading the best books, having a spiritual practice, personal development practice. And I interview experts in the fields of health, nutrition, sexuality, spirituality, personal development. And it's amazing because I feel like I'm having my own coaching sessions with these people, or mentoring sessions. And I'm always kind of like, wow, after the interviews that I conduct. So it's kind of getting me into a new space. And also I like the idea of presenting sexuality in a more digestible form, because I think it's part of a healthy lifestyle. I don't like the kind of porn image around sexuality or the health. I'm neither of those. So I want to create this kind of image, or not just portray and share this my own vision of sexuality, which is something that's beautiful and healthy and is part of a healthy lifestyle.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. It's coherent. If anybody hasn't seen your, I guess, some of your YouTube channel content, your first one, I think really sets the tone. It's always very body confident. You are calm and reassuring. Ever since I've known you, even long before I knew you personally, I heard so many good things about you from the Barcelona Women's Network, the Professional Women's Network. And it's such just, nice things about you long before I had met you, probably years before I had met you. And,
Wow.
and I said, well, finally, when I had the chance to see you, it was exactly what I expected. You just exude this confidence, warmness, positivity. And I love how you're talking about orgasmic lifestyle is kind of reaching Zen or a climax in very different areas of your life. Because if you're a coach or a mentor, a lot of times I work with startups and entrepreneurs, and Venus, a lot of the problems that they have are manifesting themselves in their business, but in reality, it's their personal life that's holding them back, whether they're dealing with imposter syndromes or a problem with their relationship at home is not letting them fully express themselves or allow them to be effective as leaders. And so I like the way that you're positioning all of this, because it's always very important. And I hear that you're also writing a book, and I wanted you to make sure you have a chance to plug your book. Tell us a little bit about it and what can we expect?
I'm writing a book about Sex magic. I think you might recall that I wrote an article for Metropolitan about this a couple of years ago. So now it's becoming a book. I actually manifested the book, of course. so I channeled my orgasm to like create this book, and it's incredible because it's the opportunities flow to me. I'm writing it with Editorial Planeta, so I'm so thrilled to have a big publisher behind me. I just got my first feedback today from my editor, and it's all good. So I'm just absolutely thrilled right now. I do have a lot of work to do. So it's about sex magic, which is also called orgasmic manifestation, which is everything's orgasmic in my world, but it's about how to channel your orgasmic energy to manifest. So not just having an orgasm for pleasure's sake, but to have it for just to try and send the energy to a different goal. It could be a new house or health or things like this. So it really changes how your perception of sexuality when you start to indulge in self-love with this different intention, because it goes beyond pleasure. And I've created this thing called 3 levels of sexuality. For example, the level 1 is overcoming trauma and shame. And then the second level is pleasure, procreation. And the third level is power and manifestation and healing and sacred sexuality, divine connection. And for most of my career has been focused on that level 2, about overcoming taboo about sexuality and just really tapping into pleasure, prioritizing pleasure. And I thought that was the top space. But now I realize there's something more. And I'm really interested in the non-sexual application of sexuality. This is something that I'm most interested in. How does being okay with your body and your sexuality, what is the impact on your personal life, your work life? Because I think you walk in a different way. Even Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich spoke about sexual energy is your charisma. It's how you use your voice. It's how you walk. It's your public speaking. It's your handshake. It's how magnetic you are. So I'm really interested in the non-sexual aspects of sexuality, because it's much more than an orgasm. So my book is all about, so it's about history of sex magic, which is something that's been around for a very long time. And also it is, I share some techniques, some very basic techniques. And then I also share some things which can make it a bit kind of stronger. Let's say combining your orgasm with affirmations, with crystals, with binaural beats, which are frequencies that are, which is kind of like sound therapy. There are different frequencies for different desired outcomes. The lunar cycle. Do you know about binaural beats?
No, I don't know any. This is the first time I'm hearing about it.
So binaural beats are with different frequencies. For example, you can look on YouTube for solfeggio frequencies or binaural beats. And these are relaxing tracks. For example, binaural beats is like one frequency in one ear, one in the other, and your brain creates a new frequency. And there are frequencies for things like relaxation, healing, and other ones for, let's say, concentration and focus. So whatever desired outcome you have, you can look for binaural beats, healing, binaural beats, abundance, binaural beats, whatever. So I kind of listen to those frequencies while I'm indulging in sex magic. So I'm really kind of making I'm just using all the tools available. And also affirmations is another thing I use a lot. So these often affirmations or even the binaural beats, they're not even sexual, that the actual desired outcome I'm thinking about, abundance or money or healing or something like that. So and then what else am I talking about in my book? Also, how to keep a magical diary, like keeping, not writing down your spells, as it were, the intention of your orgasm, the dates, the menstrual cycle, and then the lunar cycle. And then that's a great way to keep track of your orgasms and know what's working and what isn't. And then also talk about if your manifestation is not working, why isn't it working, etc. So it's very witchy. I've got to be honest, it's a kind of a topic that I am a bit hesitant to talk to people about, because people just think I've lost my mind, because anything that's a bit esoteric is just like so weird. So we've got 2 taboos here. Sexuality is one taboo, and then the other, we're combining it with the esoteric witchcraft side, which is like, oh my God. So we've got double taboo. But I also think it's kind of like making it a more pure thing. So it's making sexuality not just about your bodily pleasure. It's way deeper. And I find that very interesting.
Okay. You just touched on another thing I'd like to discuss, if we don't mind. You talked about channeling your orgasms to be purposeful. if I understood correctly. Now, can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, I can tell you how I found out about this and how it changed my life. um,
Please.
well, basically, I was living in Barceloneta in an attico, which sounds nice with a terrace. But I was always cold or hungry or cold and hungry, so, and I had no sofa. I just had 300 sex toys, I had nowhere to sit. I had no table to have my dinner at. And I was just feeling very sorry for myself. And I was struggling to pay the rent. And that's when I turned to self-help, and I discovered the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And in that book, which is published in 1937, there is a chapter about the mystery of sex transmutation. And I was like, what's this? Because it's a book about success and personal development. And at the time, I'd been a sexpert for 9 years. I thought I knew everything about sexuality. And discovering this concept of sexual energy for manifestation was so new to me. It blew my mind. It was like I discovered a new room in a house that I already knew. Like, oh, there's a new door. Wow, what's behind it? So when I discovered this, sex transmutation is a bit different. It's about kind of, let's say, imagine you are aroused. Instead of indulging in sexual stimulation, you would, let's say, channel the energy towards a different goal. Let's say writing your book or going to the gym or something like that. And I thought that's all well and good, but my job was having orgasms. So I just kept Googling sexual energy manifestation, and I came across this practice called sex magic. And I started then and there. It was like March 2018, 62 orgasms, one in the morning, one in the night. And I was just thinking about 3 things: collaborations, traffic, and graphs going like this. And it took me a while, but it was a bit of I had to change my methodology, let's say. But after a while, things started to work out for me. And ever since then, I've been using this method. So it's not just about pleasure for me anymore. So it's very, very different.
I had heard about this before from you, but I'd love to hear you expand on it, because I think it's fascinating, and I truly believe, actually, it's not that you're onto something. I totally agree that it's there. I'd love to learn a little bit more and dedicate some time on understanding this, and maybe channeling it for benefiting my life and that of my wife. How can people learn more about you, Venus? Where can we learn more about you?
Well, I would suggest, if you want to come to my events, you can look for Barcelona Conscious Connections on the Meetup app. Meetup is an incredible app, which has been very important for my own social life. So check out meetup.com. And yeah, Barcelona Conscious Connections. And then if you want to find out about my other work, I have a website, venusohara.org. And also I'm Venus O'Hara on all networks. So Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn.
You said something there, and the name of a website. It sounded like we spoke very quickly. Can you repeat which one it was?
venusohara.org. That one?
Okay, but I thought you said there was another one.
Another one, I think on social media. Oh, Meetup. Barcelona Conscious Connections is on Meetup.
Okay, no, maybe when you said something else then. Okay. Well, one of the questions that I did have pending, we were talking about it before we went live, is the idea of, you put a lot of great content out there on a regular basis. You're very generous about what you do. A lot of stuff on YouTube that's out there for people to benefit for free. But there are always lots of haters in the world. My daughter is a social media person. She has several million followers, and she needs to see a psychologist to kind of just keep her mind straight about the good work that she's doing. Do you have to deal with this challenge? Or if you do, how do you deal with it?
Well, I think I don't have as many followers, which it makes it a little bit easier. But I do think my growth has been gradual, and I've had peaks and troughs in my growth. There have been times when I wrote an article for El País that was about this thing in England called wife school, and I thought it was fascinating. It was written by a former mistress she had this 12-step plan about how to prevent infidelity. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. So I wrote this article about it because I just thought it was interesting. my editor changed the title and wrote something like Guia de la Buena Esposa, which is a text from the Franco era. And you wouldn't even, I was in the firing line for like 3 days on Twitter. And at first I was kind of like, ha, 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 ha. But honestly, by the end, it was just too much. And I had all these feminist organizations who were copying and pasting my article. And even though they brushed over what I'd said, that you can never prevent this, even if you go to a wife school, I just thought it was interesting. And as a feminist, I have the choice to talk about what I want. I didn't subscribe or didn't kind of, it was a very interesting time for me. But I did feel like very much in the firing line. Other times I've been on the covers of magazines. I was on the cover of 20 Minutes, 20 Minutos. That was kind of crazy. That was before I was sober and I woke up with a hangover. And all these people were on Twitter like tagging me because everyone in Madrid was like reading this on the metro in the morning. I was like, oh my God. And I'd said something quite controversial for the title of that, which I can't repeat here. But I was like, oh my God, because I used to kind of have this, I think, because when you're in the media, you're not really in control of the titles. So some journalists were kind of like taking what I said and kind of like twisting it a little bit, or journalists who were, after the interview, they were taking things from the drink after the interview and then kind of putting it as the title. And I was like, oh my God. So I think when you are in control of your content, you're always, you can always express yourself in the way that you want. And I think the way I see it is that every time you get a bad comment, that is like a sign of success. Because if you're going to be very successful, because there's going to be a lot more of them. I mean, I'd have thought about not reading comments, but then you don't want to miss out on the good ones, the people who are supporting you. Because I do try to reply to comments every single day. I think it's good to have that type of interaction with your community, because at the end of the day, those are the people who are going to be supporting you if you bring a product out, if you do a retreat or what have you. So I think it's good to have that, that contact with them. But you're always it's about how you react to it. And you've got to realize that was some person was just having a bad day, and you are like the target of that. And I think I just had this incredible spiritual mentorship session last week with someone. And I think this is an opportunity for you to give more love, and just be like, thank you, but blah, blah, blah. And this is a wonderful way to see it, I think. For example, I made a video last week about what to do if you need guidance. I talked about tarot, and someone says, you lost me. Like, someone who's been following me for years. And I mentioned tarot, and they're like, no. But I just said, oh, I'm thank you, but blah, blah, blah. So it was just, I think it's an opportunity for you to express more love if you can, and also to embrace the success, because there's going to be a lot more of that if you get really big.
Well, I don't have any other questions. Is there anything else that you'd like to say?
No, just follow me and buy my book.
Excellent. Well, it's always a pleasure to have you. I'm sorry, I feel like I cut you off there. What were you saying?
And also, I'd like to encourage anyone to come to Conscious Connections, anyone who is looking for deeper connections. It's not just about, veganism or sobriety, but also just making connections. It's not just about, where you're from, what you do in Barcelona, how long have you been here? It's way, way deeper than that. So, and I do think people really enjoy my events, and I get incredible reviews. And yeah.
When is your next event?
Next event is this Saturday, actually. We're going to Honest Greens in Calle Tuset.
Oh, that's what I did last Friday. Oh, wrong Friday, or wrong Saturday. How can people sign up? They go to Meetup and that's it? Or you say you have to qualify them in order to join?
Yes, they must have a profile picture. I don't have any problems, because then if someone doesn't pay, we know who they are. So we have, and also want to know why they want to join the group. And then after that, we go to Roots and Rolls once a month, which I highly recommend. It's one of the best vegan sushi restaurants in Barcelona. And it's a big space, so I can usually have quite a big group there. And the last time I went there, it was just incredible. I mean, lots of friendships were born. And so we like to support Roots and Rolls. They do the best vegan brownie.
They do so many great things there. Yeah, no, Sandra and Eric they've always been supportive, and their food is extra delicious. So yeah, we are huge fans of that restaurant and the things that they produce there, the energy that they produce as well. Well, with that, Venus, I have no other questions. And I just want to say thank you so much for all the work that you're doing to help the community. And I'm a big fan of the work you're doing. I'm going to find myself on your meetup soon enough. Hopefully I'll get accepted to join your group and understand the connections and make more deeper connections with the local people that are trying to do good.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for tonight, and I'll see you soon, dear.
Okay. Are we off now?
No, we're not off.